First of all, if you would hear a strange background noise, I can assure you that this is not a demon or a ghost. No, it is my dog. And secondly, I apologize for my poor English since I am not a native English speaker. Welcome to Griezels from Belgium, episode 1. So I worked in a bar here in Belgium 20 years ago. And just like any bar, we had our regular customers. And I remember I'd seen the film The Blair Witch Project in cinema. And I was rattling on about it all night long, until one of those regular customers, named Pete, spoke. Well, Tim, if you want to hear a creepy story that really happened, you should talk to Patrick about it. Patrick, I said. Patrick wore black combat boots and drove a huge American pickup truck. He was not the storytelling type of guy, but anyway, I could only ask. So on this quiet Sunday evening, there were hardly any customers, except for the regulars and except for Patrick. I asked him, "Hey, Patrick, Pete told me the other night that something strange happened to you one time." Patrick looked at me for a few seconds and then rolled his eyes. Well, he didn't really say it like that, but come on, Patrick, please tell me. All right, pass me a Coke and I'll tell you. But unfortunately, we ran out of Coke, so Patrick didn't tell the story. Silly joke. So Patrick started telling. "I have a sister," he said, "and she lived in England with her English husband and their 10-year-old daughter Maggie. And it was during summer that I got a call from my sister. She and her husband were divorcing, and with no money and no place to go, she asked if she and Maggie could come stay with me for a couple of weeks, just to get things settled out for her. And although I lived in a small house, they were more than welcome to stay with me, of course. But then again, since Maggie was born and raised in England, she didn't speak our language, nor did she had any friends here. So I got an idea. A friend of mine named Justin had been living for many years in Spain. He had taken over this resort from his parents about 1 or 2 years ago. I called him up to explain the situation, but before I could even ask, he said, "You and your family can come over anytime you want." Well, if you don't mind, we leave next thing tomorrow. So I told Maggie and my sister the good news, and the next day we were driving off to Spain. When we arrived, we got the most heartwarming welcome from Justin. As I said, we were the best of friends back in the days here in Belgium. The resort was a beautiful place also. It had lots of nature, a large swimming pool and this big playground. And as Maggie and my sister were exploring the site, I asked Justin if it really wasn't any problem to get us fitting into the reservations. "Not a problem at all," he said. "And since you are here visiting me as a friend, you are free of charge." I said that this was too much, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. He showed us our cottage. There were 2 main rooms, separated by a wall with an open door in the middle. First part was the living room, and the second part was a bedroom. There were of course 3 beds, one on each side of the wall, and the third bed stood against the back wall, straight towards the open door in the middle. It was the first night. My sister slept in the bed on the left, Maggie slept in the bed on the right, and me, I slept in the bed against the back wall. At this time, being a bad sleeper, I took sleeping pills. So it was in the middle of the night, I can't tell you exactly what time it was, that I woke up. And this had never happened before since I took these pills. The front door was open. But that wasn't the strange part, no. There was someone standing in the bedroom. And from the silhouette, I could see it was a young boy. First I thought it were the pills playing with my mind, so I closed my eyes and opened them again. But the boy was still standing there. There must be a perfectly reasonable explanation for this. A boy entering the wrong cottage, sleepwalking perhaps. So I spoke. "Is there a problem?" But as I spoke once, the boy seemed to be moving back, towards the front door. But it was the way he did it that scared me, because he didn't seem to take any steps, no. He seemed to be floating back. Again, I asked, "Can I help you?" And again, the boy moved a bit further towards the front door. Now at this time, I was getting really scared. "I'm sorry, can I help you with something?" I asked with some shivering in my voice. And now, the boy floated back towards the front door and the door closed itself behind him. "No way," I said. And I lay back down in the bed. "There's a strange boy in our room." It was Maggie, sitting straight up in her bed, with her eyes wide open, staring at me. Then she closed her eyes, lay back down, and fell back to sleep. "So, what did you do then?" I asked Patrick. "Well, I took my keys, ran out of the house as fast as I could, and spent the rest of the night in my car. I'm not very proud of leaving Maggie and my sister behind, but I had never been more scared in my life. The next morning I woke up very early, and I went back into the cottage, and Maggie and my sister were still sleeping. And a few hours later we had breakfast with Justin at the restaurant. And by this time I was convinced that it had been the sleeping pills that had played a trick with my mind. But then Maggie suddenly spoke again. "Who was that strange boy in our room last night?" I looked at Maggie in disbelief, and Justin looked up from his plate, looked at Maggie and me, but then continued eating breakfast. And no attention was given at it again that day. Shortly before we left, I gratefully thanked Justin for everything he had done for us this past week. "It was not a problem," he said. "Was everything to your satisfaction?" And first, I didn't want to say anything about what happened the first night, but perhaps for security reasons, so that he could keep an eye out for strangers wandering around at night. So I told him. "Oh boy," he said, as he looked away. "I hoped he would stop doing that." "Who doing what?" I said. "Well, the boy you saw is my brother. He died at the age of 6 of a brain hemorrhage in the cottage where you stayed. And shortly after he died, people started complaining about strange things happening at night. So we closed the cottage for rent, in the hope it would stop. But clearly not. I'm sorry, he doesn't do anything wrong. See you next year, perhaps?" My sister still doesn't know why she had to drive the way back and why I sat in the car and said nothing during the whole trip, just looking out of the window, staring at nothing. Thank you for watching, and on the next episode I will go on a field trip where something very strange happened to 2 girls. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and to follow me on Instagram. Griezels from Belgium. Thank you and good night.